Welcome, guys. We're coming to you live from Kelly's house today.
Hello.
So bear with us as we've got crying babies in the background. We've got dogs running around, and we're working with kind of an on-the-go setup today. So let me start by introducing Kelly here. So Kelly is my best friend I don't know,
10.
More than 10.
You think?
I do think so because I've known Bert for 9 and I knew you for 10.
Well, I moved here in 2009.
Well, then I met you soon after you moved here.
Yeah.
So yeah, about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And it worked out. She married my brother, so she is tied to me for life. So her sons are my nephews, and I am a proud aunt of them. Kelly is an amazing person, and she's going to share her story today, which when she was going through it, I didn't really understand what was really going on, and now that I'm going through it, I have a better understanding of it. So we're going to talk about her story, and kind of as we go, I'll ask some questions that I think might be helpful to you guys. So if you are here, definitely say hi, drop us a little comment, and I know some people are going to be rewatching this later on. Feel free to say hi in the comments there too, because we'll keep an eye on that. So here we go. Got our nice little talk show set up here.
Exactly.
This is fun. So Kelly, the first thing that is unique is you have PCOS.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of I don't have PCOS, and I don't have a great understanding of exactly what it is. So start there. Tell us.
So for those of you who don't know what PCOS stands for, it's polycystic ovary syndrome. And it's something I was diagnosed with in my early 20s, I would say, just by going through the, OB regular visits and things like that. And when I started to, trying to get pregnant, they actually, you can test it with a ultrasound. So it looks at the number of ovaries or follicles and things like that. But PCOS, you can have abnormal periods. So I actually didn't even start my first period until I was 17, which is fairly late for most women. And they were never regular, never, even on birth control, they were a little bit off all the time. So I never really knew when it was going to happen. And sometimes people with PCOS can go months without a period, or, just really excess, either heavy or light or anything like that. A lot of other things like weight are an issue with people with PCOS, so they struggle with weight loss just because our bodies process sugar and things differently than people without PCOS.
Yep.
So that's a lot of insulin resistance type of stuff that people deal with that have PCOS. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant. It doesn't mean that you will have trouble. It could, but it doesn't have to mean that, because I know a lot of people that have PCOS that didn't have to go through fertility to get pregnant, and then I know people that did. So,
interesting.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of always going to be a challenge. So, because it's actually something to do with the follicles, right? What is it? Too many follicles?
That's part of it. It can be, actually. I have this book here, 8 Steps to Reverse Your PCOS. You guys can see that. It's a little bit of a glare, but
try tilting it down a little. Woo. we got it to work
we
earlier.
tested this earlier. There we go.
There we go.
And actually, in here, as most things that you're diagnosed with, there's a spectrum. You can have different types of PCOS. So people can either have the follicle or the ovaries, polycystic ovaries, or not. So that doesn't necessarily mean you have PCOS. It's also could be insulin resistance and excess hair on your face, more testosterone that you have, like a male symptoms. So there's different things that can indicate whether you have type A, B, C, D, etc.
I see. So it might not show up in the ultrasound, but maybe blood work for other people.
Yeah.
Okay. So you knew about that in your 20s when you started this whole thing. Before that, you had symptoms like starting your period.
But I didn't know
later. But you didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, I just thought that was one of the things that was normal.
Right.
I don't know.
And then when you did start your period, you went on birth control right away.
Yeah.
Which helped regulate your cycle, right?
Which covered up some of the symptoms.
Yeah. which is a big deal. And then you stayed on birth control until you started trying. Is that right? Or did you come off of it kind of sooner than that?
We came off it sooner than that.
Gotcha.
A little bit before we got married, which was like unconventional, but I was just over it. And, and we were like, well, if we have a baby before, then we do. But if not, then not. So that's why, I kind of count the time even before we got married as part of the trying because we weren't not trying.
Gotcha. I actually stopped taking birth control probably about 10 years ago just because I didn't like the side effects of birth control itself. Mm-hmm. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to use other methods of birth control.
Yeah.
Little did I know I didn't really have to try that hard. So you got married in 2016.
16.
And so then you probably started trying earlier in 2016 or 2015.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember exactly when I stopped taking the birth control, but
Gotcha.
It was definitely before we got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long were you, talk about when you started trying and like, when did you realize it was not going to be as easy as you thought it might be? Or did you ever think it was going to be tough?
I think I knew it was going to be tough because I think I got this book before then, and is actually the really good thing about this book is that there are some quizzes in the front where you can answer questions, and then you can say whether or not you have this issue or this issue or this issue, and you can kind of pick the chapters to focus on for what you want to implement differently in your own life to see what would help. Because, I mean, to be honest, like a lot of doctors these days, they don't really understand PCOS, and they just automatically say, oh, well, you need to lose weight, or oh, you need to go on birth control, or they give a single diagnosis or a single plan to somebody, even though they may have different versions of PCOS.
Interesting. Are there doctors that specialize in this? And
there are. I think like more people go to like an endocrinologist,
okay.
which is like the endocrine system is kind of what this is tied to, which deals with the hormonal imbalance. I never did go to a specialist like that, but I did when I talked to the fertility specialist that was recommended to me by so many of our friends out there on our soccer team. We have had the same doctor for most of our kids that were through this journey. So I actually contacted that particular doctor in October of 2017. But when we're going to talk about Norwex in a little bit, I actually joined that a year prior to that. So I already started to think about some of these things, like changing out, the plastic containers that have BPA and things in that. And this book actually had quite a bit of those recommendations in there. And my cousin, who she actually introduced me to Norwex, she lives in California, so it's a big thing out there too. And that's kind of where I got started on kind of making some of these choices for myself before I went to a fertility specialist to try to see what they could do to help.
Yeah, I think I was actually introduced to the getting rid of the toxins in the house from you, because you recommended it. You hadn't even read it yet, but you had heard about it. The book that I'm always touting over here, it starts with the A, but it's the very first chapter in here is like, step one, guys, get rid of the BPAs in your house. And on top of that, BPAs are actually in the receipts that we get. And so like when you like go shopping, if you get that like grocery receipt or whatever, try not to touch it, or if you do, as soon as you get home, wash those hands.
It's in this book too.
Yeah.
So if you're in retail, even if you're working retail and you're handing out receipts all day long, that could be a factor as well.
Wear rubber gloves, or just be very. It's like you wouldn't know it because no one warns you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, BPAs are in lots of things, and the Norwex products have mindfully like tested everything so that everything is like safe in your home for you and your kids. Because this isn't even just for fertility, like people trying to have kids. This is just in life, guys. These are toxins you don't really want in your body.
Even when you have kids. I mean, I know my son licks the floor or the windows. It could happen.
It's true, yeah.
Or babies that are doing tummy time, they put their mouth on the floor.
Yeah, and pets. You don't want pets eating those chemicals either.
Exactly.
Here we go. Okay. So let's go back to the PCOS thing. We talked about toxins, getting rid of those. What were some of the other things you started to do to reverse the symptoms, I guess, as they say, right?
Yeah, so it's really more, they say, like a lifestyle change. It's not really something that you can do like for a month and then you're cured. It's something that's long-term, things like exercise, like a low-carb diet, avoiding sugar, dairy, gluten. Those are all things that can help. The thing with dairy I found was very interesting is obviously there's a lot of hormones in dairy from the cows, and cow's milk it's made for baby cows. It's not made for humans, but that dairy industry has blown it up to say this is part of the pyramid, the things that you have to have every day, but it's not necessarily true. So not that we don't buy milk, we have milk in the fridge, but it's interesting how
we're sold into this idea that we need dairy, that it's part of a healthy diet. But I actually don't consume a lot of dairy at all.
I don't.
And all the vitamins that they say, like calcium, I think is the big one, right? Mm-hmm. You can get through supplements and tons of other vegetables and other natural foods.
Actually, my almost 2-year-old son, he doesn't drink milk. He prefers water. So I'm like, well, that's actually fine with me.
Yeah.
People are like, what do you mean? He's not going to be this or that? And he'll be fine.
Yeah. You can still have healthy bones without milk.
Yeah.
That is such a marketing thing.
It is.
What other things?
Something else that's interesting with PCOS is, most women when they're trying to get pregnant is they have the OPKs, the ovulation predictor kits. And I don't know all the science behind it, but it doesn't really work with women with PCOS. If you try to figure out when you're going to ovulate or if you ovulated, you get false positives all the time. So that was one thing I struggled with early on is I was like, I'll just go take this ovulation kit and make sure I know when I'm ovulating. And it was all over the place. It wasn't anything that I could have, no data that I could have actually used to make a decision on when we should or shouldn't, have sex and that kind of stuff.
That makes it really hard. What about basal temperature? Same thing, right?
That's a little bit, it actually will work. It's better, but it's hard to do as well. To take a temperature at the same time every day, on a schedule. I know. Before you wake up, before you get out of bed, that's how you're supposed to do it.
Right. And I know when I was trying that method of, tracking like that, I would have the thermometer next to my bed and then just pop it in my mouth as soon as I woke up before I got out of bed. Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. It takes a whole minute for it to read before I can go and pee.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. The pee tests don't even work. You're talking for the ovulation kit.
Yeah. It will for a pregnancy test, but not for ovulation.
It's not picking up the LH levels.
Yeah.
That makes it really tough. So then you went to the fertility center then, and so they treated you knowing you had PCOS, or was it kind of like the standard?
No, they knew I had PCOS, and they had the standard thing where you do the baseline ultrasound like what you just went through.
Yeah.
And I did that in November 2017. We had our first IUI December 2017, so the next month. Let's see, I had 4 different follicular ultrasounds in preparation for the first IUI. We triggered on cycle day 13. And we did an IUI on 2 back-to-back days on cycle day 14 and 15.
Yeah. That was something when I went through my IUI procedure. Kelly's like, ask him if you're going to go back-to-back days. Yeah. So I did, and I looked into this. And there's mixed studies on it, on whether it increases your chances or not. So what she did is actually go in on one day with Paul. Mm-hmm. And was he in the room, by the way, when you did your procedure?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I see, and Bert was
probably now. Did they allow it?
Bert was there too, and I was actually really surprised. I thought he'd have to wait in the car. Well, now because COVID.
Because of COVID, yeah.
Or at least in the waiting room, but they're like, no. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, he was able to be there. But yeah, just like what happened with you, he goes in early, provides a sample, they wash the sperm, take out all the bad ones or whatever. And,
and he does that both days, right? It's not like they split the sample in half and
exactly
the next day. So that's pretty cool. So, and then they told you to have sex for the trifecta, where we just had the double. So we did the procedure, and then just later that night, they're like, yep, just have sex, That actually, now that I've gone through it, I was pretty uncomfortable after the procedure. So I bet that did not feel great.
Especially with Clomid, right? Because we did Clomid, I forget, maybe days 5 through 9 or 4 through 8 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you felt full.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable that way because there are so many follicles developing in there.
Oh, yeah. But after the procedure itself, I felt even crampier.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that didn't feel good the second day going in for your procedure. Or you don't remember?
I don't really recall. Yeah. That's been a while ago, but...
block it.
Yeah. Pretty much. And then I got the BFP, which is big fat positive. Have you ever heard that term on your groups?
I think so, yeah.
If you're on any of the, fertility groups, there's all these acronyms, BFP.
Yeah.
So I got that on cycle day 28.
Mm-hmm.
We had a number of ultrasounds going into February, and then unfortunately in March, that last ultrasound, there was no heartbeat of that first pregnancy.
Yeah, I remember that day. So tell why that day sucked even worse.
Yeah, so Paul had been to every ultrasound with me, and this was like the fourth one. So we had pretty good progression throughout there, and then the fourth one, he had to work or something and didn't come with me. So no big deal. And we were doing this fairly early in the morning, so it was like 7 a.m. or something like that, and they told me there was no heartbeat, and literally... Sorry.
It's okay. You were alone when that happened, and
yeah,
that's not easy news to hear. And
no, and so I had to go to the parking lot and call Paul, and obviously it was like this, and he couldn't understand anything I was saying.
And that's got to be so hard for Paul to receive that news too at work, and
yeah, I think he even left from work that day and came home.
Yeah. I think you called me right after that. I was at work too, and I couldn't believe it. Just nothing you're expecting.
Yeah, but the silver lining is, like, we'd already told all of our close friends and family about the IUI and everything that we were going through. So, I mean, it was a lot easier to have that support when something like this does happen.
Yeah. You want to take a break?
No, okay. I didn't think I was going to cry.
No, I'm a little surprised. I'm going to get you a tissue.
You're okay. You even practiced this earlier.
We need a Norwex.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I don't see any tissues anymore.
Yeah, they're over there, but...
Well,
But it just was really nice having the support of our friends and our family that knew what was happening. And got so many really nice gifts from people, just that they were thinking of us. But what I told Lynn earlier is, like, I wouldn't take it back. I know at the time it was really hard, but if we wouldn't have had that miscarriage, we wouldn't have gone on to the second cycle of IUI, which we started in May. So we found out in March, and then we were already starting again in May. So literally I had to wait. Actually, let me step back. So we did the DNC, which is basically removing the baby. I had to go under, and it was like a surgery.
I was asking Kelly about this earlier, actually, because I don't know. A lot people do not open up about miscarriages, and it's a lot more common than we realize, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of once
people know that you've gone through it, everyone comes out of the woodwork and says, "Oh, I did the same thing happened to me. Same thing happened to me." But at that time, I was introduced to a decision where I could either do the DNC or I could wait, because what we had was called a miscarriage, which the heartbeat just stops and you don't know that you're having a miscarriage, and it takes a while to have the body figure out that there's no longer a baby inside or living anymore. But for me, mentally, I just didn't want to wait, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to see what would happen.
Right.
And then the pain of just having bleeding and I don't know what all kinds of other symptoms come with an actual miscarriage. I luckily just went in, they put me under, and Paul came with me. They removed everything, and then I was able to go home, and I was done. So, like, for me, mentally, it was just much easier to deal with it that way. Just say, okay, it's over and done with, than to have to wait around and not know what would happen.
Right.
So we opted for the DNC, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk on miscarriage, but what I was saying was, if I didn't have that miscarriage and we didn't try for the second IUI, I wouldn't have my son.
Yeah. Nolan is an adorable freaking kid, like A+, he's awesome. So is Levi. When you had that DNC scheduled, did you have anything else like after that scheduled? Like, did you guys go to dinner, or did you guys just plan to take it easy? Like, what did you do like to emotionally like process that? Do you remember?
No, I mean,
It's kind of traumatic, so
Yeah.
probably natural to just kind of block.
I think
a
we
lot of
just
that.
kind of chilled out, But the interesting thing is when we did find out we were pregnant, we wanted to schedule like a baby moon. So I scheduled a vacation. And what ended up happening is on the second IUI, during my 2-week wait, we actually were on vacation because that was supposed to be like a little vacation for the first baby, but actually ended up being a good time for our 2-week wait with the second IUI. We went to Lake Tahoe and just had a really, really good week there in a little cabin, like Airbnb cabin.
Nice.
Which was really nice. So
Yeah.
definitely during the 2-week wait, taking, stress out and just relaxing was really good for us.
Yeah. Yes. Taking the stress out is a big thing. Stress can be a huge contributor to infertility and in the body accepting the egg
Mm-hmm.
and everything. I'm sorry.
I honestly didn't think that was going to happen. We talked about it this morning, and I was just like, blah, 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 blah.
No, it sticks with you, and I think that anyone who's watching this has gone through it too is probably can relate to that completely.
It's not something I talk about like very often anymore at all, especially now having 2 kids. It's like, okay, that happened, that sucked.
Right.
I don't mean to make it sound like so blunt, but
yeah,
I wouldn't take anything back on how it happened. That's my journey, that's my story, and everyone has their own story and how they got to where they are.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's move on to the success stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the miscarriage, that was in March, and then you were pregnant by May. So they started you pretty quick on the next round of IUI.
Yeah,
did I get that right?
Yeah, I had to do 5 different blood tests to get my HCG down to 0. That's the human growth, the indicator that's in your blood when you're pregnant. So that's what they track upwards when you first find out you're pregnant to make sure it's doubling. But they also do the same thing on the back end to ensure that you have everything out of your system, basically, before you're able to start over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea if that takes a while for some people, or is it a pretty standard?
I had 5 different blood tests, from February to May. So, yeah, it can take a few weeks.
It does take a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
So something to be aware of if you do have to go through that. You might not be able to try right away on your next cycle because they won't let you start trying again until that's down to almost 0.
Yeah. So luckily you got pregnant on your first try with IUI, and then you got pregnant again on your very next try with IUI, which
Correct.
is kind of lucky. Some people go through rounds and rounds and rounds of IUI and never have success of it. So Kelly is a success story. I don't know if I'm a success story yet, but I do remember watching you go through this, and I remember you cutting back on like alcohol and like really paying attention to the products in your home.
Yeah.
Watching your, what you and Paul were eating. It wasn't just you not drinking, but it was Paul too.
Right.
And I think that was something that came with,
Yeah, I also have these 2 books too. It's PCOS diet, insulin resistance, and PCOS for the newly diagnosed. And so this has a bunch of different recipes. Not only from the other book I showed, but what things to try to avoid. Like I mentioned, the dairy and gluten and things like that.
Yeah.
From your diet, and just trying to eat more veggies. So those are the things that we were doing. And again, alcohol is a big piece of that too. So we weren't drinking. I don't know if we went straight like no drinking, but I think we were just reducing.
Yeah.
Where we could.
It back, yeah.
Not that we were like hammered every night or anything, but
we did have some good. We used to party pretty hard.
Yeah,
back in the day. We'd play soccer.
Closing down Soccer
City. Closing down the bar on a Monday night at like 1 or 2 a.m.
Well, that's where I met Paul.
Weekly. Let's not get into that story. That's the story for a different time. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So once you were pregnant with Nolan.
Yep.
So this is hopefully where I'm headed next. Okay. So as a first-time pregnancy, what were some of the things that stick out in your memory? Maybe things that you were surprised about, or maybe things you were uncomfortable with, or pleasantly surprised with?
I remember my boobs being super sore at the first indication of pregnancy. That doesn't always happen with everybody, but that's one of the symptoms that I remember.
That was pretty early on.
Yeah.
And lasted the whole time?
No, it was on and off, but
Okay.
like as a first indicator, that was when like, oh, this feels. Hi, Christy.
Hi, Christy. Sisters. That's Bert's sister. So one of our sisters.
Yeah. So one of the things I did when I found out I was pregnant with Nolan, I have this little.
I love this
little book, and it has all of our ultrasound pictures. So this was 5 weeks pregnant. There was a yolk sac present, and I have the HCG beta was at 8,769. So I have it in the date of when that was. So I have some of the indicators on like where you were, and like I found myself comparing my numbers when I was pregnant with Levi to these just to see like where they fell. It was actually interesting too because I still have some of the data from the first pregnancy too, when I could tell something wasn't quite right.
Oh,
that the numbers weren't as high with that first pregnancy, and that's obviously why it resulted in a miscarriage. So I found myself, I'm a big data geek too, so I have like spreadsheets with all this data, and I'm comparing it.
Yes. I think we both share a passion for spreadsheets like that.
And so then I have like the heartbeat was 148 beats per minute during week 7 and stuff like that. So I just have like some of the key things, all these appointments that I wanted to notate.
This is like a flip book. It's so cool. You can see it getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And trust me, when you start getting some of these ultrasounds, you have like so many pictures. And then, so these were all through the first infertility clinic. They had this, and then she gave me our due date, which was February 21st. And then they sent a nice little note saying, thanks for trusting us, blah, 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 in your journey. Aww. And handwritten note from the doctor. And then I transferred over to my OB, and then I kind of have like, aww, it's a boy, we got the phone call on this date. And
oh, okay. So wait, so the fertility clinic actually does all this?
They did up and through week 11, 9, something like that.
This is actually a great question because I hadn't thought about like...
Yeah, so the way my fertility clinic did it is they saw us up and like till they knew it was a viable pregnancy, like weeks 9 through 11 is that around that time frame where you would consider it viable, because I think we had our miscarriage at week 9.
Okay.
So it's after that point where it's like, okay, this is, probably going to be successful. And at that point, they hand off your records over to your OB, and then you just see them going forward. Because most OBs actually won't even see you until you're 8 weeks pregnant anyway. Huh. If you don't go through fertility. I think that's kind of the standard. They'll call you and say, when was the date of your last period? And it's like, okay, we won't see you until X date, so they can schedule in the future.
I'm learning so much right now in this moment. This is really cool that you kept this.
Yeah, and like I was telling Lynn earlier, like some things, there's so many appointments that there's little things that you would forget if you forgot to write it down. So I was actually doing fairly consistent entries in this little book. We got our pregnancy announcement photos in here that we put on Facebook, and the dates I posted it on Facebook, the dates I told family and friends. The glucose test, that's fun. That's where it checks your blood work. And so this is an interesting thing with PCOS. Since I have it, I actually always have to do 2 different glucose tests for each pregnancy. Most women just do 1. But since I have PCOS, I'm more prone to gestational diabetes. That's why I actually failed in this last pregnancy. Failed my 1 hour and my 3 hour, I think. I think I failed the 1 hour and I passed the 3 hour. So there's different tests that they check for.
When do they do those? In what part of the cycle? So
this is 17 weeks pregnant that they did this one, and then I think later on, like 28-ish. I'll have to double check.
I see. And what do you have any idea what happens if you don't? If those results still didn't come back right?
They put you on a special diet where you're not supposed to eat sugars and things like that.
I see.
Yeah, they make you chug this. It's called Gluco Crush. It's basically like orange McDonald's drink, but really sugary.
Christy says she failed the glucose test with Charlie, but passed with Wyatt.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something I did not know. So this isn't just something for PCOS, it's for...
Yeah, everyone that gets pregnant has to get this glucose test, but I think I had to do it twice for each pregnancy versus I think most people just do it once.
Got it.
But yeah, I think I passed with Nolan and I failed with Levi, which is what I think happened. And what happens if you do the 1 hour test, which means you drink it, they draw your blood, you drink it, and then they draw your blood 1 hour later to see the differences in the sugar levels and how your body processes it. And if there's a certain frequency or something, then they're like, yeah, that's good. But if you fail the 1 hour, then you go to the 3 hour test, which means you go in, they take your blood, they draw it 1 hour, they draw it 2 hour, and they draw it 3 hour.
Oh, to watch it.
Yeah.
I see.
And that's brutal.
Yeah.
You're like literally sitting, especially in COVID times, you're sitting in a room, with nobody around, and it sucks.
Did they let you actually wait in a room? Or
actually, the one guy let me sit in a chair and have my my feet were reclined in the back. I was like, "You're awesome."
I don't think they have any recliners at my fertility clinic.
No, this is like in the lab where they draw your blood. So it's
see.
like those fancy, comfy chairs.
Gotcha.
And he's like, "Oh, no one's in here. You can just go in here."
That's awesome.
Because they weren't very busy. But like the other time I had to do it, I was like, "Okay, I'll go in," and I had to go out in the waiting room and sitting on a hard bench.
Yeah.
It sucked, but. So yeah, I have this. It's really good. I would recommend if you go through, just kind of keeping notes. Oh yeah, so then this one was like 25 weeks-ish that I did another glucose test.
Nice. You passed that one.
Yeah, but I had low iron in my blood, so then I was given some iron tablets. So I kind of have all this written down on what.
All you can see is face there. It's
Yeah,
so cool. So I have a question about these. So before I did all the IUI stuff, I thought that my only things that I know about ultrasounds is it's on top of the belly. Now, all of my ultrasounds were intravaginal, I think is the right
so
word.
I think early on, especially with the follicular ultrasounds, it's a vaginal ultrasound to count the follicles. And then once I think it's like 12 weeks pregnant, then they do on the belly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So all those ones from the fertility clinic were
correct.
Awesome.
Vaginal.
Or vaginal.
Then they change over once you get to, I think it's 12 weeks.
Christy says, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, was able to control it with a diet. I did not know that, Christy.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not the end of the world. You just can't have as much like bread and sweets and all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. And those are things that more and more, like when everyone was glucose, gluten-free kind of craze, and some people are like, oh, what's the big deal or whatever. But there's actually a lot of reasons, not just celiac, a lot of reasons to avoid gluten. And PCOS is one of them.
Yep.
And just in general, when you're trying, glutens cause inflammation, which makes it harder for implantation.
Yeah, that's actually the number one thing in this book. There's like 8 steps to reverse it. The first one is addressing inflammation, treating insulin resistance, balancing your adrenals, treating excess androgens, addressing hormone imbalances, balancing your thyroid, creating a healthy environment, and eating a balanced diet. So those are the 8 steps.
There you go. This book is awesome, guys. She was showing it to me before we came on, and a lot of the stuff that's in there is a lot of the stuff that's in It Starts with the Egg, and it's not just for PCOS. It's actually really helpful for everybody. Great stuff.
There's a lot of really highly scientific stuff in here too, like some of it over my head, and I was just like, whoa. But like every book, you kind of take a few things that you want to try to do, and a few things that I noted that I did. There's something called inositol, and then I found this brand that's Ovasitol. These are little like packs that you can throw in your water that I just put in like twice a day in my water to.
It's not going to work. Sorry, guys. I tried.
But I just bought them online through like PCOS Theralogics company, and then there's another one called Pregnitude, which is basically the same thing. So I did those as supplements, and I also did like vitamin B12, vitamin C, and vitamin D3, which are a couple of the ones that I actually still take today, that I took out of this book that I did. And
this is specifically for PCOS or kind of everybody?
I think it's for egg health in general. Okay. So I think it could be for anybody, but I think it helps people with PCOS more. But we can. It's been a while since I researched.
Yeah, I think you gave me some leftovers.
I did. I actually I was cleaning out a bag from my glove box in my car, and I just found this the other day. So it's expired, but I just wanted to have it to show you guys. They actually now have big like tubs of it too
So you can
that
just
you can
scoop.
just scoop.
These are so nice.
But they're
though.
good for on
Yeah.
the road.
So you can just pour it into your water bottle.
And there's no taste to it, so it's like you wouldn't even know that you were drinking it.
And the instructions in here say 1 packet twice a day.
Yeah.
So that's the dosage, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I think that's all I had on my notes for PCOS
Yeah.
and the IUI journey.
Cool. So then you had Nolan.
Yep. And
What was it like being a brand new mom? You had your
crazy.
So you had your sister who had kids before you. So you've had close friends who had kids before you too. I know
Right.
Heather was close, and Corinne and Lauren were close contacts for you. So that support system helps a lot, and I think that's what you're going to be for me. Well, I think I'm going to have a lot of people, but you're definitely going to be that for me. But even with all that support, I mean, what was it like?
I mean, you have to just filter through advice because everyone's going to have their say on what you should do or don't do or whatever, and you just have to be able to take all of those recommendations in and then decide what you actually are going to listen to and what you're not. Because even things that our parents did, you know, however long ago, they don't do anymore. So, and even things that my sister did even 10 years ago, they don't do anymore. So it's like you have to just kind of be able to take all that in and do your own research and make your own decisions as a parent.
I remember you doing that research, and if you don't mind me bringing up, like you made a conscious decision about circumcision.
Yeah.
And that was a very interesting thing to me too, because I don't know, I guess, everyone that I know, it's an American kind of tradition. But that's actually something that's been more common lately is...
Yeah. Because I actually wasn't even sure when I first, like, oh, it's a boy. I was just assumed, circumcision is one of those normal things in the U.S. that people do.
Yep.
And if you do, that's fine. But when I started to actually do the research, and there's a really interesting documentary, The Elephant in the Room, or Elephant, something like that.
Okay.
That actually talks about circumcision and kind of how it got started and why people do and don't do it anymore. But what's actually interesting is the reason they started circumcision was actually because they thought all the nerve endings in the tip of the penis, if you remove that, it's less pleasurable for men. And so they were trying to get rid of masturbation. So I thought it was a big sin. So it comes back to like the Bible and all this religious stuff. So if you get circumcised, then it's obviously less pleasurable having sex as a man than if you're not.
But you'll never know.
I will never know, but I don't want to make that decision
never know.
for my child.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, if they want to get circumcised when they get older, then they can make that decision. It's their body.
Yeah.
But I was also going back to this whole thing on, we say that, genital mutilation for females is bad. What's the difference?
Yep.
I mean, if you think about it.
Yep.
And, to me, having a cosmetic surgery for a baby who was just born didn't seem right to me.
Right.
So for me, we decided, actually, I asked Paul about it too, and he was like, yeah, that sounds terrible. Why would we do that?
Though he took a little convincing, though. Like, he didn't, like, first take, like, then once he heard everything that you had heard, then, it was more obvious for him to get on board.
And a lot of arguments, people are like, well, I want my son to look like his dad, but, like, why?
When do
you compare? To me, that's not a valid argument either.
Right.
So when I've done my research, you can see arguments for and against it, and people will say, oh, well, they get more urinary tract infections, but that's actually not true either because there's females that still get UTIs as babies.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no difference. So it's not really comparable. But I mean, a lot of people still do it, and that's their decision.
Something else that I liked when you were getting ready for the birth was you researched all the vaccines and not just vaccines, but everything that they get when they're first born, which I didn't realize how much there is.
Yeah, there's so many things that they do. And a lot of things they just don't even ask you. They just do it. And for me, I was like, well, there's reasons they're doing certain things. And there's some things it's like, most people are doing like a delayed vaccine schedule. Because if you look at like the recommended vaccines for kids these days, they say, oh, you're going to get all of these when they're 2 months old, all these when they're 4 months old. And there's one, I don't remember what it was, one that they do in the hospital. And I said, well, no, I don't want to do it in the hospital. I want to wait until they're first pediatrician appointment. And then that way it's a little bit delayed from the rest of the schedule because they're already getting so many shots. People like to spread them out more these days than the recommended schedule. I mean, it may mean going to a few more appointments, but for me, I'd rather do that because I've heard so many horror stories about vaccine injuries, or a baby reacting to something because of so many.
Right.
They do a lot of combo vaccines too today, where they're putting multiple in one, where you don't know how anyone's going to react to that.
Right. So when you made that vaccine plan, did you do that with your gynecologist or who did you?
No, the pediatrician.
The pediatrician.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had your pediatrician picked out before.
You have to.
And
it's a legal thing,
Gotcha.
Which I didn't really know about this. So when I was first planning, you have your birth plan. A lot of people are doing birth plans these days, but
Wait, when should I be starting that?
Well, when you find out you're pregnant.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of people are like, birth plans are overrated because really the birth plan is to get the baby out, successfully and the mother healthy and all these things. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want this and I don't want that. But like sometimes your birth plan, like I didn't want a C-section.
Yeah.
But I ended up with a C-section.
Yeah,
You have to be flexible too
Right.
in your birth plan. You can say I don't want this and that, but if things happen, then you have to adjust your plan.
Yeah. So the birth plan is with your gynecologist.
Yeah, whoever's going to deliver the baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So the OB and
OB. Right. Not necessarily gynecologist.
Correct.
Got it.
Although the gynecologist can be the OB, because
Right.
they can be the same person.
I'm pretty sure that mine is, but I should double check on that. Yeah. So much.
There's so much. Oh, and going back to the pediatrician, the first time I went to the hospital, actually with Nolan, I went in early because there's a stress test that they do when you get to be over a certain point in your pregnancy. Like Nolan, he went 41 weeks, so he was super late. But I did like a stress test, and they sent me into the hospital, I think a week before I had him. And I was admitted, and they were checking things. They're like, oh, who's your pediatrician? And I had gone to their website, and I had gotten a name. And they're like, oh, no, it can't be that person. I was like, oh, well, who? There has to be something else. I'm like, okay. So then I found somebody else, and I just wrote their name down. And then they just show up to the hospital. You never even have to have, like, an appointment with them.
Oh, that's
It's
crazy.
really bizarre. I don't even know how that process is supposed to work. But I said, oh, this is a pediatrician. They had one in Schaumburg and Arlington Heights. At the time, we were still living in Schaumburg. So now we still go to that pediatrician, but we go to the Arlington Heights location.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like super weird. You write down someone's name, and then they come to the hospital and they show up and they do a well baby check on your kid. You're like, I've never met you, but thanks for coming. But you can actually decide to change later, but you just have to have somebody on the list, and then they come and do a check to make sure the baby is healthy to be released from the hospital.
Interesting. So much.
There's so many things.
So many things. Okay, so we covered so much. Your journey is so helpful. It's to me personally, and then I'm sure whoever catches this either live or in the replay, I'm sure it's helping them. Let's talk about the Norwex products because this is super exciting. If you guys are looking to get try and get rid of the toxins in your house, let's start with okay. So cleaning chemicals.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big one. Kind of going back to what Kelly said, like the products that you use to clean the floor or surfaces or whatever, and then if you've got pets or kids, or even if you put something down and then pick it up, it all transfers, right? So try to get rid of those chemicals. And
so I have 3 things here. The Norwex mission is to reduce chemicals in homes. So this particular cloth, these are all microfiber. And you can buy microfiber in the store, but what's interesting about this microfiber is that it's 1/10 the size of a human hair. So it picks up so much more than, like a microfiber that you buy from Target or, anything like that.
Right.
The other thing, too, that's different about this kind of microfiber is on the tags, they say backlock, which means it has like a silver embedded within the microfiber, so it self-purifies after you use it. So you can use it longer, and it doesn't get the smell as well as some of, you get kitchen towels that you've used for a couple of days and it starts to get a little stinky.
Mm-hmm.
These don't really do that. So what's interesting is you just use this with just water.
That's it, water.
Yeah. So
And it works.
Yeah. So this you would use on any surface in your house for the most part. This is like the main cloth, the Enviro cloth. So you get it wet with just water, and you see how I had it folded. You can basically fold it into fourths like this, and then there's like more pressure behind when you wipe it. So they consider this, I forget the right term, but it's a different type of cleaning, where mechanical cleaning, where it basically removes everything from the surface instead of putting a chemical on your countertop or something and then like wiping it around. If you actually look at the Clorox wipes bottle, it actually says you have to keep the surface wet for 4 minutes to be efficient, or to remove everything from there.
Really?
Who actually would sit there with a cloth or with a wipe and make sure the surface is wet for 4 minutes continuously?
No.
It doesn't work.
No.
So this is another way that you can basically remove everything from the surface of your counters, of your cabinets, your microwave, anything that's in the kitchen, anything. I have windows over here I use.
Oh yeah, this is
on
good
here.
on the window, right?
Yeah, so this is the Enviro cloth. The second thing I want to talk about, this is the window cloth.
Oh, that's a separate one, yeah.
This is separate. They're actually sold together as a basic package. So it's a good set if you've never had anything from Norwex before. And the nice thing is, like, let's say for windows, glass, mirrors, stainless steel appliances, any of those things that kind of have a little bit of a shine to it, you want to wipe it down with the wet Enviro cloth, and then take the window cloth and kind of polish and shine it. And it actually dries it too at the same time. So
yeah,
this
one has like a little bit more of a terry cloth to it, and this one's a little bit like smoother.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Won't leave any streaks on there.
Yeah, and they're big. You
Yeah,
can see how big they are. And so you can use it for, fold it different ways and get the surface on, if it's really wet over here because you just dried a bunch of things, then you can flip it around and use the other side. And they have, all of these have tags, so you can basically rinse it out with hot water and then hang it to dry, and then you can use it again within that like 24-hour period to ensure that it's good. So like I said, these two are sold as the basic package, and then if you really, this is the third thing. This is called our dusting mitt. You just pop it right on your hand, and then you can go around bookshelves or like entertainment center where it gets really dusty.
Yep.
You can just wipe it off, and it keeps everything inside of it. The story I like to tell with this one is when I first started selling Norwex, of course, my mom was my first customer, just like, anything that they support you on. She had this routine where she would go dust her house on Saturday mornings. So she would go around and dust, and then the next week she would go around and dust again. When she first got the dusting mitt, she went and dusted with her dusting mitt on Saturday. She went to go do it the next week, and she didn't need to.
That's awesome, because it picks it up.
It picks it up instead of moving it around and then having it settle back down again. So this is a really good thing too.
Bert actually has been using like Pledge to dust, and I'm like, I really want you to stop using this. He's like, well, what do you want me to use? And I'm like, I forgot that we have this actually, and I used to use this all the time, and it's amazing. So Bert, we have one of these. It's blue. This is what I want us to use moving forward. We can even get a second one, then we can dust together.
Yeah. So these
Couples
are cool.
that dust together stay together.
And they have little kids ones too. I hope for no one over there. And that's what's great about this stuff is, like, you can even involve your kids in cleaning. He's cleaned my windows before. I just give him the Enviro cloth. Here, wipe this down.
Yeah.
Because our dogs get little, like, nose prints all over the windows and stuff, so it's easy to just wipe that down.
Perfect height for a 2-year-old. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'll segue to the next product. I think that we're...
you tell me.
So when you wash these things, you don't want to... when you like put things into the wash and they pick up like the films and stuff like that? This is the detergent from Norwex, and it actually comes in liquid or powder. I use the liquid one, and I absolutely love it because it's nice because it doesn't add any like residues or anything like that. Sometimes with your heavier detergents or dryer sheets, that's when you start to get kind of a wax on there, build up on your stuff, and you notice that your like towels stop being absorbent, things like that. So this is a really awesome line. What's this one?
That's a stain remover.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed.
And there's an odor eliminator. There's and there's a microfiber cleaner too for like if you need to deep clean your cloths, you can use that instead, or it's like a laundry booster if you need like something that's super clean.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
So this is neat. So one of the chemicals that you like that are often in these things that that are bad for our system are phthalates. And I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how it's PHTHALATES. And this is often fragrances, like associated with fragrances. I think I talked about this in one of my other episodes. It's one of those things that are in so many things, like from soaps to body care, and then all these things. But Norwex makes sure that none of them have phthalates.
So this says no phosphates, SLS or SLES, no chlorine bleach, no fillers, no optical brighteners, no animal testing, no dyes or fragrances. So this is the powder detergent. Like Lynn said, there's also a liquid that just has like a little pump. Yep. Like you literally just have to go like this.
Yep, I put in 5 squeezes and that's it. Yeah. Christy loves her window plump.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's popular stuff here.
So then in addition to the detergent, there's a stain remover.
Bert says bring some home.
I've got a whole closet of inventory downstairs.
Yes.
And then these are the wool dryer balls. There's also like a plastic. I don't know if this plastic is the right word, but right. You know, like the regular dryer balls that have like the little spikes on them. We have those too. But these are great too. Like instead of using dryer sheets, you can throw these in. If you miss that scent of a dryer sheet, you can use essential oils on the wool balls to get that scent of your laundry. Because really, a scent means that there's a chemical in there. Yep. And actually, a clean smell is kind of dangerous. Right. So it's better to have products that don't actually have a scent for you.
We'll have to do a whole episode on essential oils sometime. Yeah. Because there are, just a quick point about that is like there are some essential oils that are good and some that actually are not good for fertility. Correct. So just be careful, do your research before you just go, essential oils are okay. We don't want to mislead you here. Okay, what's next?
We can show a couple more things for the kitchen.
Okay.
So just like the Enviro cloth I showed you, there's also kitchen cloths. These have like more of a weave, like you can see. Maybe you can
it's see. A little tough, yeah.
There's like stripes on them, so you can get crumbs inside of there to capture on the counters. Nice. So this is the kitchen cloth, and then there's the kitchen towel. So one's bigger than the other. So these do the same thing. What I didn't say earlier about the Enviro cloth in the kitchen is they basically do this chicken demo. If you've not seen this before, Google Norwex chicken demo. They basically take raw chicken and they rub it on the counter. You can do a test swab, like from the food industry, restaurant industry, where they say that there's protein.
This all the time.
There's protein in the swab. You basically can test your countertop, say no protein, rub the chicken on it, test it. Yes, there's protein. Take a wet cloth, either the Enviro, anything that has the back lock on it, and wipe it off. Do another test, and there's no more protein on the surface. So they're actually really great and it's just water and a cloth. And like I said, the mechanical cleaning removes it from the surface instead of putting something like a spray on there. Yep. To remove the bacteria.
I think we're just like so trained to be like, I need to bleach this in order to make it safe.
I haven't bought bleach in
no.
I can't even tell you how many years.
Right. As soon as I ended up or finished the bottles of like whatever cleaning products I have, I just don't buy more.
Yeah, exactly. So these are the kitchen cloths, and then these are counter cloths. The only difference with these is they have a little bit different weave. Actually, let me just grab some from my actual kitchen.
Okay.
So you can, they come in this little house.
That's a Norwex thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, this is adorable.
You can this is like a little house that comes with, you can put the cloths in it. So we basically have these sitting on our counter, and they're like little ones. You can use them for napkins, we use them to wipe off my 2-year-old when he's sitting in this chair for meals.
I love that.
And then you just hang it to dry, and we use it a couple times for his meals, and then we throw it in. We have a little basket in the laundry room, we just throw it in. And once we have a full laundry basket of Norwex, then we wash it all together.
I'm sold.
Yeah, so this is a cute little house. I don't know. I don't think it comes with this many. I think I probably bought a couple more that they come with. But that's really cute. Yeah. You can buy them either as a 3-pack just like this, or you can buy them in I think it's a 6-pack with the house. As far as dishes go, we have a dishwashing liquid. And then these are... little dishwashing cloths. basically, you just fold them up into like a sponge.
It's kind of like a mesh. I know it's kind of hard
Yeah.
to tell on screen here. We actually just switched to something like this recently. And I was really skeptical because I'm like, well, how's it going to hold the detergent or the soap for cleaning?
Yeah.
But it actually, like when you have it folded over and everything, it holds it nice and it actually gets like cheese and eggs off, like amazing.
And I know we're focusing on like chemicals, but this was more like an add-in because this doesn't have the chemicals in it, the dishwashing liquid. But then this kind of like, to me, it gets paired together because when you're talking about environmentally friendly things, you don't want to have like those sponges that just get thrown away. Yep. This is something you can use over and over again. You wash it, and then you can keep using it. So that was something that I wanted to pair with the dishwashing liquid.
Nice.
Something what we were talking about is the Dirty Dozen, which if you've ever heard of these, it's like there's 12 different fruits and vegetables that have the highest amount of pesticides on them. Something that you can do is we have this produce wash. I don't know if you can see this.
It's tough, yeah.
So this is a produce wash. You basically just spray it onto, if you have berries or apples or anything like that. When you first come from the grocery, you can spray it all down, let it soak for a minute or so, and then you can wipe it back off. But this, again, no phosphates, SLS, all that stuff that I read earlier. It's really easy to use. And they have how many ounces you should use per whatever.
It's easy to use.
Yeah.
Nice.
My friend Stacy loves this stuff. She just bought like 3 more bottles. So that's one for produce wash. And then...
the last thing. So I know in our kitchen we use those plastic containers. Well, it was like the first thing we were trying to get rid of. These ones are a silicone. And check this out, guys. I don't know about your container situation at home. Takes up tons of room. Not these. Look at that. They're expandable. Bert, if you're watching, what do you think of these? And then they have a clip on top that goes on top.
Not oven safe, water resistant, no flame, freezer safe, food safe, no cutting, and dishwasher safe. And then they fold up, silicone, and then they have clips on 4 sides. And then I think that this like releases the air. So you can get a good seal.
It's so awesome.
So these come. This is the small and the medium get sold in one pack, and then the large and extra large get sold in a separate pack.
So I love them. This is great stuff. And then there's a whole line of other Norwex products, guys. We just thought these would be the most applicable for kind of getting started. Some people get really into the whole Norwex line. Some people swear by the mop.
Yeah, the mop is great. That's good for the floors. And then these are the last 2 things. Yeah. This is for like your face. If you're doing like a facial routine where you've got certain things like working in the field or some acne medication that you shouldn't be using when you find out that you're pregnant. These are some things that you can do. Again, it's mechanical cleaning, but for your face. So you get it wet with just water and you wipe it off and it removes everything from the surface of your face. So these are the body and face cloths. Comes in a pack of 3. And these are the makeup removal cloths. Again, pack of 3.
I love that.
So 2 different options for cleaning your face or body.
And it's so nice because then you're not like throwing away cotton balls and everything like that.
Exactly. And they even have facial ones too, like little facial pads for cotton balls. I don't have them with me right now, but there's a ton of products. We just wanted to focus on a couple of them. Even things like shampoos and lotions and chapsticks.
Yes, I need to have an entire episode about like skincare products and things that we put on because that is a huge, like if you've ever been to a Facebook group about fertility or pregnancy, that is a huge question that always comes up. It's like, what's safe to use?
Exactly.
So this has been incredibly helpful, Kelly. I learned more things. We went through this entire thing like for an hour before I even got here and like did this show, and then I just learned even more stuff. So,
well, good.
You're
Let me know if you.
We never hug. We're just not huggers, but
no.
That was special to get on camera. So, thank you, Kelly. Anything else that you wanted to throw in that I forgot?
No, I think the link to the website is on the YouTube
Yes.
Right?
If you're interested in any of the Norwex stuff, guys, I put a link in the description, and then you can add things to your cart on that site. And then once you get to the checkout page, there will be a pull down for Lynn Clementi's baby talk party, I think.
Correct.
So click on that, and that'll help me out a little bit because I can't wait to take this stuff home, and you buying things will help me out.
And there's a whole catalog of other things.
Yep.
Everything is online as well. If you go to that website, you
Yep.
can search for everything that's available.
And if you want to get free products from Norwex, you can host a party too, and we can do these or Kelly can do these virtually as well.
Yeah.
So,
and if you have any questions on like, hey, this is my problem, what should I do for the solution, then just let me know. I'll be happy to suggest something.
and your contact information's on that link, right?
Correct.
That's awesome. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for watching today. I know it was, I think, our longest show. So we're went for a full
Record.
hour. I know, breaking records over here. Hope you enjoyed it, got a lot out of it, and we'll be back on Wednesday. Well, Kelly will be watching that one maybe,
Yep.
and I'll be on with I guess Laura Murphy to talk about her and her partner's IUI, or I don't actually know if they did IUI, but their journey. She is very pregnant and expecting very soon, so
Exciting.
hopefully there's no cancellations with that. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
All right.